Okay, what's up, everybody? So, I haven't done this in a while, and I think I was a little bit nervous about doing it. I don't know why. So let's hop right in, right? So my name is Richie. I go by Medium Ugly on TikTok. If you know me from my music, I go by Rhyme One, and so I've basically just been out and about living life and stuff. So I haven't really done a podcast in a while now, but it's all right because you get back into these things and then, eventually you end up just, continue right where you left off. So this is the Me versus Me podcast. I always like to tell people that this is just basically my version of explaining the inner struggles of what it takes to actually get the job done. You could be in, content creation. You could be a music producer. You could just be somebody who's, starting a business or something. And what I'm saying is, a lot of the times people don't care about the baby. They don't care about the process. They only want to see the baby. Shout out Justice. He used to say that, and so like I got that from him. But so a little bit about myself, who I was a year ago. A year ago, I was working at Paul Davis Restoration. I was attending school part time on the side, community college, and I was just watching TikToks and stuff, and I was hoping that I had the opportunity for me to actually like hop in and like do what I'd like to do, but I just didn't have the time. So now I'm at the point where, I have an opportunity because I recently graduated, and, I got a different position. So, that's a blessing. So, I did come up with a couple questions for myself to kind of like, keep the ball rolling as far as like the podcast go. But this is something that I said that I was going to do that I'm hoping to achieve now. So here we go. All right. What would 16-year-old me think of me today? I think 16-year-old version of me would probably start making fun of the fact that like, I'm a little friendly and I crack jokes like 24/7. But I think 16-year-old me would be intrigued by the fact that I'm doing everything I want to do. And I think that would be appealing to someone like me because when I was younger, we just basically had like we had an environment and there was parameters in that environment, and if you kind of stepped out of line with that, you kind of got like mistook as somebody who was going against the grain. Whereas I think I've always kind of been a creative. I've always been somebody who like to look at things different and kind of change it up just so that way I could get interested in things, and then just wound up discovering myself later on. What's something people assume about me that's completely wrong? I think people assume that I'm gonna be shallow. I think people assume that I'm not gonna have good intentions. I think people basically assume that I'm a little shady, but if I were to like take a look at myself and break those down, definitely not shallow. I really enjoy a deep conversation. If I can, I'll get it in where I can. But sometimes, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff, so I just don't have the time that it takes to actually initiate a deeper conversation like that. So what I end up doing is just, I'll answer the question and move forward. Another thing is that like I'm gonna be shady. Like I grew up in a rough neighborhood, right? And so it's hard to put the guard down sometimes, especially initially. But once you see that, once you see that, like, or should I say, once I see that, you're someone who can be trusted. You're somebody who's worth having around, and you're not gonna bring down the energy. I'll definitely open up to you, right? And just, people wouldn't think that I'd be so caring, but I honestly am. Like I care a lot about the relationships in my life. And for all of the people who've seen me like kind of transition to where I'm at, then you probably know a little bit better. But the ones it's two types of people. It's the ones that didn't see me with the transition and they just knew me from before. Those guys probably couldn't care less. They're honestly like, that guy, forget that guy. But just where I'm at with things is, trying to be the person who I wasn't being in the past. And then for the people who are seeing me for the first time, they don't really know what to make of me, right? They're like, "Can this is this guy serious? Like, like who does this, right?" And I think that that's a conversation that needs to be had, one where you actually just try to understand somebody versus just kind of make up your mind about them, judge and move forward. Like you have to really understand that at some point, like I was just more so on my own, and I had these ideas come up. And hang on, I gotta go close this. One sec. Hey Miranda, how you doing? Thank you for joining. Actually, I do appreciate it. It makes me feel good knowing that one of my peoples is on the live. Um, but basically, what I was saying is that I think the people in front of me don't really. It's hard for them to appreciate what I bring to the table now, especially when a lot of people aren't like me and they just didn't have the experiences that I had with being who I was in the past. So like people can conceive it as like unrealistic, or I don't know, they can see it as a bad thing. But most times what I'm trying to do is I'm basically trying to be a good person by my own standards without really, I don't know how to explain this, but like basically I try to be a good person even if that's hard for me. And I know it gets hard because sometimes people make it so hard to be a good person to them. I don't know if anybody can relate as far as that goes, but I can tell you that I've struggled with the whole me rolling out the trying to be a better friend, better person, better loved one. And people have made it tough on me, right? Especially because I live in San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles, California. People don't necessarily act like that out here. I can't necessarily say I'm like the first of my kind because I've seen other people be the way they are, and I think it's a fascinating thing to be in an environment where everybody's one way and you're just true to yourself. I guess what I would call displacement of myself is just that I'm rolling out the whole being more of myself and less of what everybody wants to see. So I think that was a long-winded explanation on what I feel people probably would misconceive about me to begin with. But yeah, let's move on. What am I actually chasing? I think that what I'm chasing is freedom. I don't mean just like financial freedom. I mean the freedom to be able to live my life how I want, creatively, financially, just be able to not have to worry about the bank account when I go out to eat with friends. Also, like the amount of time I spend with a person or like a group and stuff, like I don't want to have to worry about that. So I think that I am hoping to have all of these high level systems at play so that way I can implement them and they can basically support the lifestyle that I like to live based off of all of the efforts that I'm putting in now. So I'm not necessarily banking on me being a multimillionaire right now, but it would help later on in the future, especially when I already had all this stuff in play. Like the podcast, the music, whatever. Like it would help because then at that point I could not have to worry about money. I could be around interesting people that allow me to, like piggyback, and like they add to the fun. So like I think that's kind of like what I would appreciate. But right now I'm just kind of chasing all of the relevant systems that would basically allow me to be able to live such a life without hurting anybody else or manipulating or like doing any shady stuff to anybody else. So let's go ahead and what's this next question? um okay, so now we're going to talk about construction and my business and stuff, but like why did I decide to work at a contracting company? So I'm very much ADHD. Like my personality, everything about me, um, is this way because of discipline, but on its own, without me having any type of like let's say if I were to just like not put in any effort, my brain would wander at like a thousand miles per second, and that's just who I am. But let's say if I refer back to the discipline that I've um, imposed on myself, it's made it very difficult, but also very valuable. And where construction comes into play is that with your mind flying at 1,000 miles per second, million miles per second, you need something that's not going to bore you. You need something complicated enough to fascinate you, to keep your brain chewing on stuff while still giving you easy tasks to be able to achieve the goal of figuring it out. So that's why I chose to get into working at a contracting company. What were my biggest mistakes so far? Excuse me. I would say my biggest mistake so far would probably come from just being me in an industry that it's not like that. Like a lot of a lot of people in construction don't necessarily know how to receive positivity. They're so used to the way that it was. So now that a new day and age is coming, like it's a little harder for them to transition, but all of that stuff is very outdated, right? And the newer trend of people stepping into construction roles, and they just have like a mind of their own and stuff, and they don't believe in the same principles that a lot of the older heads started with, is like a separation of the two, which sometimes it's kind of funny to see in the workplace, but it's also not a bad thing, right? Because you need new, fresh ideas in anything that you do in order for things to revolutionize, right? We just so happen to be fortunate enough to be existing in a time where we have technology, and I think that's pretty cool, right? Because for example, you can use like the different programs, software programs. You have estimating programs. You have your cameras at your leisure, right? Like you can literally just take a picture, take a video, send it to your supervisor or something. Whereas before it was kind of like they got sent out to a job, and they just like had to hope that they got it right. They didn't have YouTube and stuff like that. Like I think a lot of us in the workforce, we're a lot more reliant on that. But getting back to the question on what was my biggest mistake so far? My biggest mistake so far was not understanding the room that I was in, not not even think to read the room, because a lot of that got me sideways looks. A lot of that got me pushed to the back, or viewed as I wasn't a serious individual. Even though I felt that I was capable. So, I then had to earn the respect of other people's. And I don't think it should be like that. My mentality is very much the opposite, where it's like you're given respect mutually, but you have to earn the trust, right? Like I think that's a better way of looking at it versus when you see someone for the first time, you're like, I just don't respect you. But I trust that you're gonna show up and come through for me after me treating you like that. Like I think it should be reversed. But that's just what I think. Moving forward, um, what's one job that taught me a lesson I'll never forget? Woo! There's so many different questions pop into my head when I think about like all of the construction jobs that I've been on. I could tell you that I was on this job one time. I think we were working out in Palos Verdes. And while I was there at this job site, it was literally just one of those jobs where everything was falling apart. And I got sent in not because I was the expert or anything, but I got basically sent in as a filler. And mind you, I was still very, very new to the industry, didn't necessarily know what to say. So the one thing that I kind of recognized in that moment is staying quiet and observing was a skill that is oh my gosh, like it's such a valuable skill. Because I mean, when I walked into this job site, the only instructions I really had was, hey, I just need you to go here. Well, there's nothing for me to do there. Yeah, I know, it's just that like these people are blowing up, they want to see somebody there, and I know you have nothing to do with this project, but I just really need you to step in for me and just be there, right? knowing they're sending me into the frying pan because these people are hot. These people are hot about things that I have no control over. They're fighting over money, and I'm getting sent into this situation. So what I end up doing was I walk in, I acknowledge the people. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And then I just shut up, stay quiet, and I take a look at the room, right? And I think what we were doing was we were doing an addition or something, and knocking down a load bearing wall, and I think there was like a strong wall and like a shear wall and stuff involved. So immediately I take a look at what the job is for what it is, and the people are ready to argue with me. They're so ready for me to say the wrong thing so that way they can just hop on top of me. And I didn't give them that. I stayed quiet. But instead, what I was doing was observing. I was looking at every little detail to kind of cross reference it with what I know is supposed to be right, as far as like, what I see on a construction job. And I open up the blueprints, right? And in me opening up the blueprints, I can kind of see them taking a step back, like, oh, like, because they understand the verbal agreement. They understand the agreement that like had been had contractually. But as far as like the plans go and like the codes and stuff, they didn't really know what to say about that. So I just reviewed all of the documents. I reviewed the plans. I compared them to what I was seeing in real life, and I think that kind of put them at ease a little bit, but it also made them feel just enough uncomfortable with, because they were just like shedding expertise or what they thought it was supposed to be, which is fine. It happens. But like, you can't know more about something unless you work in that field, unless you've actually ever worked in that field. And I think it was more like speculation of an opinion that they thought they were contributing as facts, and it wasn't like that at all. Like I looked at the plans and I was like, that's supposed to be there. This is supposed to be here. The guys still need to work on that, but it's all right. They're still working. And that one thing, that one me coming in, observing silently and just staying quiet, choosing not to argue, even though, your ego, your pride steps in and you just you want to just like blah 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 blah, like no, like I shut up, I listened, and it got me through that situation. And I just always I guess I always just kept that with me. So what excites me the most about construction, I would say building stuff that's going to be around for a long time. Like if I sell you a t-shirt, it's almost like that t-shirt is relevant up until the shirt is, like thrown away, or it's like turned into rags, or until you buy a new shirt and then I have to sell more t-shirts and stuff. But like let's say if you and me are driving down that street and you see like a really nice house, and enough to make your head turn, like, oh damn, like you see that house? Yeah, I was already looking at that thing as I drove up. Like it does something. It does something to you, right? But not only just that one time, anytime you go down that road, that block, you could see that house and be like, that's my favorite house. And you could live your whole life. You can, some of these houses stick around for like 70 years, 30, but 30 to 70, right? But you could basically go through your whole childhood. You could go through like all of your college years, some of your adult years. Oh, guess what? You're having a family too. You're moving, but like anytime you go visit your parents, you see that same house. Like I think that's what excites me the most, is that house is still standing, and it took somebody to build, and like that's what I wanted. I wanted something that would remain even way past my days, right? Like if I build a strong enough building or whatever, and I'm no longer alive, at least that structure's still standing, God willing. So okay. So now we're gonna transition to the mindset. So my mentality. And the question says, what's something I struggle with that nobody sees? The discipline that it takes to actually implement all of these systems that I was talking about earlier. Just dedication, perseverance, resilience, patience, not crashing out over everything. Like that is something that is so hard, but that I try not to show people, and I try to like go about it gracefully, and I don't think that that's appreciated as much as it should be. People can be so judgmental about what they see in front of them versus actually looking at it like, what if I was in that guy's shoes? Or instead of being like, I don't know what that guy's got going on. So, anyways, that's that's just something that bothers me. Plus, I'm a very open person. I can be very weird. I can be very weird, right? Like hell, me even doing a podcast can be viewed as weird in some circles, right? Because everybody's so like, you know, close to chest, and they don't really talk about stuff that they got going on in here, right? They understand the social cues, and they don't do anything to step outside of those. Me doing this could be viewed as weird, but I'm just very vocal. I'm a very vocal person, and with that being said, I do it openly. I do it in front of the camera. I do it in front of the people. I do it behind the closed doors. This is just who I am, right? This is what I do. But the we all got our things. We all have our things that make us who we are, our little quirks, if you will. I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna be like, I don't got no quirks. Like, what do you mean, Richie? You do. It'd be the baddest chicks, the coolest guys, the manliest, toughest. We all have our things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm being vocal about mine and you're not being vocal about yours, you don't get to judge me. You still have your things. I'm just doing mine out loud. Like that's not fair. Okay, so it says, how do I handle failure? Yeah, I rot in bed for a little bit. Doom scroll, just be sad, depressed. I will occasionally just like lay down in my shower. I know that sounds weird, but it's what I do. Like I'll just lay down because it's like a shower slash tub thing, and I'll just like lay down in there with the shower hitting me in the face, with the water hitting me in the face, and listen to lo-fi music. I'll turn the light out, and I have like a little night light, and I'll just listen to music and just calm myself down, and I'll just think. I'll try to think my way past the problem. Very much experiencing it, which is really hard to do because sometimes when I crash out, it's very hard to pull myself together, and these little stints can really take me out of the game for a couple of days and stuff. But it's the truth. There's it's not worth hiding. But once I finally do get out of it, it's like, all right, cool. You'll see me around again. I'll start cracking jokes and stuff. But if you see me with my head down or something, just give me a second. Like I'll pull it out. My misery doesn't love company, so I probably won't involve you, but it is what it is. When have I wanted to quit? All the freaking time. I've told people this on numerous occasions, IRL, in real life, that I have quit more times than I can count and just kept going. And I've always said that the glory be to God because I just kept going. Like, but I quit every single time, and I knew I quit. So therefore, I label myself a quitter. But then showed up the next day, and showed up the next day, and showed up the next day, and I was just like, who revitalized me? Who brought life back to me? That was God. That wasn't me. I'm still the quitter that left myself behind. But in person, what you see in front of you, I'm here in front of you. So, you know, I guess I just keep going. That's how I would answer that. What's one promise I made of myself that I refuse to break? I think that as far as promises go, I promised myself that all of the bad stuff that I encountered, I wasn't gonna let it turn me into a bad person. And to take a step further is I didn't want to let another person down that I had that I had made a promise to, where I basically said like, thank you for teaching me everything you taught me, and then they're all like, now it's your job to go teach other people or something like that. And I was just like, yo, like, me? And then life happens, and then you're no longer in communication with certain people, so like you move forward. But I guess I just kind of, that stuck with me. And then the responses I started getting from that were just like, negative backlash, and like sometimes life happens and it's like, fuck, like I'm really taking some L's right now. I'm really taking a lot of hits. But I guess I just kind of was like there in that moment, and I was like, no matter what, like I just don't let this make me a bad person. And I just hope that it didn't. So here I am now, and I feel like people say I bring a lot of positivity to the circle, and thank you. I wrestled with my demons for it. So here we are now, in front of you. You want to say anything? Sorry, that was like I was trying to do like a little clickbait thing. Whatever. Anyways, next question. What does success actually look like to me? That's a good fucking question. I don't know. I don't know what success looks like to me. I know that that's subjective. A lot of success means a lot of people success means like a lot of money, or like all the toys, got the boats, the cars, the houses, like et cetera, the nice bags, clothes, jewelry. I think success to me looks like I don't got to worry about any of that stuff. I could have any of that stuff, but I'm not worried about it because I get to do what I want, uh, think how I want, feel how I want, be as free as I want. Or I could just turn around and lock in and like, but just to have that freedom. I think that's what success means to me. Okay, so next part of the questions are fun stuff, right? What are fun stuff? What's my most embarrassing work story? I can't think of one specifically, but I know I do a lot of dumb shit at work. Like from saying the words wrong in Spanish, and then like my subs not correcting me, and then months later I figure out the right word to say the word, and then me just reanalyzing the look they gave me in those moments. Or just basically thinking I was kind of like showing off, or like, being the guy to like, like my supervisors and stuff, and then them just like just looking at me like, bro, what? And then me being wrong is like comedy to me, because I was like, yo, that's so embarrassing. All right, moving on. Next question. Next question. Um, what's one conspiracy I think is interesting? I don't really do conspiracies. Conspiracies is like the quickest way to turn me off, cause me to lose attention. Because like I feel like a lot of that stuff is like theoretical or like speculative. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some that actually have their merit, their facts and stuff. And I know there's a lot of people that invest a lot of their time into like searching for the truth, and it's labeled a conspiracy. So like, more power to those guys, because they're out there fighting for the truth. But I personally don't usually allow a lot of bandwidth in my brain for me to entertain those topics until something's proven true, or I don't care about it. Like, I'm just ignorant in that sense. I don't know. Whatever the appropriate term would be about to phrase that, it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna beat myself up for being who I am. If money wasn't an issue tomorrow, what would I spend my time doing? This gaming, podcasting, making music. I'd probably start making movies, like real live actual movies that you can go to the movie theaters and watch. I think that I would also, I don't know, like I would just be everywhere, always doing whatever. And then you'd probably just catch like clips of me and like glimpses of me all over the internet, right? and like I'd be in so many rooms and I'd be in like so many different places that it would just be funny to me, right? That I'm just sitting there kicking it and, like chilling with the president of the United States, chilling in like this different country with like these like movie stars or whatever. I'm on set with these actors. I'm like in a music video, like definitely golden retriever energy. Um, where do I honestly think I'll be in 5 years? Probably still doing this, just a little bit better, with like a whole better quality. I'll probably have, you know, an official studio that I do this in where I bring guests again. Because right now I'm kind of doing this from my house, but for me to be able to do this from a location and then be able to separate it and go back to my house or whatever, I think is very necessary for me. So I'll probably be doing that. But successful project manager, college graduate with the bachelor's degree in construction management, successful content creator on TikTok, right? Probably I'll give myself 5 years. I'll probably say like 10 to 15K followers, maybe 20K, right? If it turns into more than that, I guess I can't be mad. But if it turns out to somewhere around there, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I probably had a blast doing it. And probably just a couple more people watching the podcast, and maybe one person walk up to me and be like, "Yo, I saw that episode. What you did changed my life." We'll see about that last one because I do say a lot of stuff that's not really. Um, I just do a lot of stuff, so I don't really know. What do I hope people remember me for? The love that I give to people. I hope people remember how I treated them, how I made them feel. I hope it was a good thing. Um, but sometimes I make people feel bad too. And you had that coming. No, I'm just kidding. I think that I would just want people to remember me by the love that I showed to them, and then hopefully that'll remind them that love like that exists and that they can treat the next person well, well enough to create a cycle and pay it forward, I guess. If if someone watching is stuck right now, what would I tell them? I would say for you to do what it takes to reset, do what it takes for you to be able to get your footing and keep going. But there is such a thing that when you're in the moment, sometimes you don't really feel like you can catch your footing. Sometimes you feel like stuff is just flying at you and you don't really have a place to really like mark, or like to kind of like create a marker and reevaluate how your progress is going. For those people, I say do your best you can, because that's the best you can. And in the future, if you need to do a little bit better, that's fine. But those are two different things. You in the now versus you in the future, two different mentalities. You can't bank on what you're going to worry about in 6 months from now. You can only bank on what you're worried about now. And some of that stuff is probably logical, right? But like, let's say you are stressing about like, how am I going to pay these bills? I got these I got these kids, I got mouths to feed, like, et cetera, et cetera. Do what you can as you can. And the stuff that you slip up on, that's fine. It's okay. Like, just continue doing your best, because eventually that tide will turn. And once it does, you're just going to have so much growth, so much more perspective. And, for the next person who comes through that you see that happens to have a similar battle, you're just going to be able to coach them a little bit better, or you're not going to be so worried next time it happens to you. So I would say just keep going. But even if you have no control over your situation, and even if you feel like you're just failing left and right, it's all right. Just, continue with the course. And you know what? I'm also going to say this. There is a difference between quitting and choosing to leave something. Choosing to leave something is intentional. Quitting is also intentional, but it's like You're not leaving something because it's too hard. You're leaving something because it just no longer has the growth there for you. So I guess that's what I would say. What is the next mountain I'm trying to climb? I think that the next mountain I'm trying to climb is to move on from being a project manager to hopefully a construction manager, which means that I would need to like graduate from school and move forward in like, the business world. Also be a little bit more consistent on TikTok, social media, content creation, podcasting, music, like just being consistent in that, and then just trying to take it to new heights, like heights I've never been to before, and hopefully be able to put it into, uh, create a system that allows me to do all of those things that I enjoy doing without it taking too much from me, and learning the balance in that and understanding the effects that it has on me, so that way I can properly prioritize all of which that I mentioned. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to gain from it. A few rapid fire questions: coffee or energy drinks? Both of them. Early mornings or late nights? Ooh, little bit of early mornings for sure, so I can sit there in bed and just chill a little bit. Late nights when I'm playing video games, because I don't want to go to bed yet. Biggest fear? Uh, biggest fear? Going back to my old ways and just being the person who I fought so hard not to be. Favorite video game? Ooh, Resident Evil, and all Resident Evil games. There's some other good ones out there, but Resident Evil games for me, that's my shit. Biggest pet peeve? People acting too cool. Too cool. Like, you too cool. Like, oh, you're showing a little bit of your personality? Psh, nah, bro. We too cool. Like, I don't like that shit. Dream car. Audi i8, Audi R8, or it's not i8, I think it's i5. Ferrari, a McLaren I'd be cool with. 1964 Bel Air, the 1979 Challenger that was in Burn Notice. That's my dream car right there for sure. Dream construction project, something big like a skyscraper. Like if I could do a skyscraper, I'd be so happy. One word people would use to describe me: valeo, crazy, or maybe funny. Golden retriever? No, I don't know the one word, but maybe honest, accurate, funny. No, I think I already said that. Himself. He's just himself. One word I use to describe myself: all of the above. But the reality of the situation is just still figuring it out. That's one word. Uh, Processing in construction, under development, develop, still developing. I don't know the one word. I can't do the one word. So I guess that's kind of like the list, right? Let's see. How long have I had you guys hostage for so far? Looks like I've been doing this for 39 minutes already. So I think I'm gonna probably cut it soon. But if I could say anything, I think I would want to say that no matter what's going on, just try your best to figure it out, and eventually, you know, you'll after getting in your reps, eventually you'll be where you want to be, hopefully. And I pray that that happens to all of you guys. For what it's worth, I wasn't always like this. If people see the good in me and they think a good thing about me, and they're like, "Wow, that guy's so talented," whatever. Like that guy does good stuff or whatever. I wasn't always like this. So if I did it, you can too. And that's kind of where I'm gonna end you guys at. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching the podcast. See you in the next one.